7:49 at KNEB. We'll devote the rest of our time this hour to all things North Platte NRD. News Extra is brought to you by Gehring Civic Center. I'm Dennis Ernest in for Kevin Mooney, and today John Berge is joining us. John is General Manager for the North Platte NRD. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Dennis.
John, it's a busy time. I guess it is year-round at NRD, but you've got several things going on front and center that you'd like to visit about.
We do. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was we're doing an expansion of our EPIC program allocation buyback that we have started about 2 years ago. The EPIC program is an acronym for called Encouraging Producer Innovation and Conservation. One of the ways that we expanded that a couple of years ago was this allocation buyback, which allows us to buy back inches from the allocation in order to gain credit toward our obligations in the integrated management plan. And it also allows producers to hedge against lower commodity prices. It's been a very popular program with landowners. We've had more applications than we could fund the past few years, so we were looking for some additional funding, and we were able to secure some of that funding through the Platte Basin Coalition. Platte Basin Coalition is a coalition of all of the Platte NRDs. We're a member of that coalition. And I went to the administrators of that. I sit on that board and asked them if we could access some additional funds to expand this program, and we did. Last year we spent $56,000 on this program. This year, with the assistance from the Platte Basin Coalition, we're going to be looking at a $200,000 program. Just to give people an idea of what this means, we buy back an acre-inch of water for $20. So on an 80-acre pivot, if you're selling back 2 inches on a 14-inch allocation up here in the valley, you're going to be looking at a $3,200 program. Each inch you add to that adds that much more assistance to you. The way that works for us, so that's the benefit to the landowner. The benefit to us is every acre inch that isn't pumped can become credit for us with our IMP, which is ultimately very important. We're now wrapping up the first increment of our IMP. We've done very, very well. We're in a position much better than many other NRDs that are in integrated management planning process. We've met our obligations every year since we started this process, but we don't know what the second increment is going to bring. We're going to start talking about that come April. We're going to start our IMP negotiations probably for at least the next year. But as those numbers come more clearly into focus, we want to have all the tools we can in our toolbox to meet those obligations. The sign-up for the allocation buyback program starts on the 20th of February and will run through February 6th. And if people are interested, they can...
It starts on the 20th, runs through...
I'm sorry, the 20th of February runs through March 6th. I said February. Yep. And if people are interested in that, they need to come to our office, not the NRCS office, as they normally would for cost share.
Okay. So interesting program there, and you have some more funds to work with on the EPIC sign-up.
Yes.
Let's talk about some other cost-share programs that you have going on at NRD.
Yeah, so the NRD jointly between us and the Nebraska Soil and Water Conservation Program jointly fund roughly about $150,000 to $200,000 of cost share each year. That ebbs and flows with availability of funds. This year we got cut a little bit on soil and water Soil and Water Conservation Program dollars from the state because of some budget concerns that they've got down there. So we're a little bit down, but we're going to be able to fund a lot of applications. These programs fund practices all the way from irrigation management to planned grazing systems to trees, and are very critical to a lot of the landowners in our district. We started about 4 years ago having a continuous sign-up for those programs so that people weren't rushed in getting their applications in. We also started a scoring system on those applications so we were more appropriately spending those funds. The one thing that we have to do with a continuous sign-up is we still have to have a cutoff date for a particular year. The cutoff date is this Friday. So if folks are interested in getting their application in, they need to do that soon. And for that, they go to the NRCS office because we like to confuse people, apparently. We send them to the Scottsbluff, Bridgeport, or Oshkosh NRCS office. They can get their application filled out and get it into us. We will do the scoring on that next week on the 22nd of February, and then we'll be making a funding announcement shortly thereafter. The cost share program is 50% of the actual cost of the practice, up to $5,000. So it's not an insignificant amount of money, particularly if you got a less expensive kind of practice you're looking at implementing.
Okay. John Berge with the North Platte NRD with us here this morning on News Extra. Couple of other topics to tackle. We'll do that right after this for Gering Civic Center.
Let your wedding reception be a truly memorable celebration by holding it at the Gering Civic Center's elegant, column-free ballroom. Your planning will be helped by professional staff who are dedicated to your event. The meat shop will delight your food senses with traditional or ethnic menus. There are no room or service fees with food purchases. Call 436-6888 or GeringCivicCenter.com. The Gering Civic Center, the center of it all.
You may have seen some of the folks from the North Platte NRD out at our Farm and Ranch Expo, and had a chance to visit with Dave Wolf, myself, about the roundtables, producer roundtables that are underway and continuing this week. John Berge with North Platte NRD with us here this morning. One down, two to go?
One down, two to go. We generally try to do these in each region of our NRD. In the past couple of years, we've been doing one in every county. We've this year sort of consolidated them a little bit. Last week we had a producer roundtable in Garden County. We had a record turnout. People were interested in what we were doing. Happily, not a lot of complaints, but some, and a lot of good comments. These producer roundtables are very important because we get a lot of good input from landowners. That EPIC program I was talking about a moment ago, that came from a producer roundtable. That was an idea of one of the folks that attended one of those a few years ago. Today we're going to be in Bridgeport right after visiting with you. I'm going to head down to Bridgeport. We're going to have a meeting there at 9 a.m. It's a breakfast meeting, so we'll have food available if people are interested in coming. And we'll be talking to those folks not only about these programs that I just mentioned earlier, but about a whole variety of different things.
And you want to hear back from producers.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, we know that people are busy, and we know that our board meetings sometimes aren't the most advantageous to somebody's schedule. So if people have the opportunity on a cold day like this, after they get done feeding cattle or whatever, if they want to come in and visit with us, that would be phenomenal. Tomorrow, we will be holding our meeting here in Scottsbluff for Banner, Scottsbluff, and Sioux County landowners, and that will be at our office. And my assistant manager, Barb, is bringing in the food, so it will be we'll all be bursting at the seams after it's all done. Those meetings are critically important for us to get input. Our board members generally attend those. Certainly not in mass, but those that can get away from their other activities attend those, and you can certainly visit with them as well. So we're looking forward to seeing everybody out at those.
All right. Now, in our remaining moments here, let's talk about some legislation going on as the lawmakers continue toward completing their 60-day session. Still got some things on the table that are vital to NRD. Tell us about those.
Well, we do. There's a couple of bills that are of significant importance to us. The first is LB 1123, which is a bill that was introduced predominantly to address some of the concerns around the N-Corp project in the Twin Platte and Upper Republican NRDs. That bill would essentially remove water rights from the overlying land, groundwater pumping from the overlying land. What they're trying to do is allow for that land to be sold, but still allow the water to be pumped underneath. And while that sounds like a good idea, particularly in terms of restoring some of that tax base that was lost when those acres were retired, it concerns us a little bit because it would negate the way that we regulate groundwater. Groundwater today is attached to the land, is certified to the land, overlying it, and we have a little bit of an issue with that. The second thing that it allows is for some outside entity to come in and buy up water under somebody's land, and I think that would be an unintended consequence of the senators. I think there's perhaps a way that they could address these issues. I don't know what it is. That's why I'm not there and they are, but I'm not sure that's the right way. The second thing, just very quickly, we're in the midst of our budget conversations right now. We'd like to get our budget wrapped up maybe by April or May so that we can get it in front of the board in fall. And one of the things that's been sort of an ongoing concern of ours is losing the 3-cent levy authority for over and fully appropriated NRDs that was instituted about 10 years ago. It's set to sunset this year. We would like to see it extended, given that we don't know what that second increment of our IMP is going to look like. We'd like to have the tool in our toolbox. We very rarely use that authority. We've got 0.2 cents of 3 cents, if you can do the math on that we're using this year. We cut $700,000 out of our budget last year. We're looking at ways that we can get even more efficient for the next year. But if that number becomes big on that second increment, I think we're going to be wishing we had that kind of authority.
All right. John, thanks for coming by. I know you got a busy day. We'll let you get on the road.
Thank you, Dennis.
You bet. John Berge with North Platte, NRD.